This is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be off. It's not quite what I'm used to, but the great news is we've got the amazing Mike Cavanaugh here with us today. So it's going to be an incredible episode of hashtag Rise and Grind. Let's grow.
Good morning and welcome to hashtag Rise and Grind. I am your host, Glenn Lundy. I am a husband to one, a father to seven, and the creator of what is going to be the #1 most watched morning show in the world. It is 5:30 a.m. and I hope that you are ready to rise and grind.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you, my friend? How are you, my friend? So incredibly interesting situation this morning. First thing on hashtag Rise and Grind. I was in the green room with my man, Mike Cavanaugh. He's ready to come in here and drop some powerful stuff on you today. I can't stinking wait. But I was in the green room with Mike. We got everything set up. We got the sound set up. We got the lighting set up. Everything's perfect. We're over there chopping it up and talking about our terrible football teams. It was incredible. Everything was perfect. And then I realized I left my phone downstairs in the car. I was listening to an Audible this morning, listening to The Success Principles by Jack Canfield, and I left my phone, which means I can't see you. I can't see you that you're there to say good morning, but I know that you're there because I can see that already, boom, just like that, over 80 people are watching hashtag Rise and Grind at 5:30 a.m. in the morning. I stinking love you guys. You're incredible. Hey, today is Friday, January 3rd. 2020. And I made sure to write that down today because yesterday I thought it was Wednesday and the day before I said it was 2019. So today I made sure to write it down. Today is Friday, I believe, January 3rd, 2020. And what's crazy is today is the very first and very last time it will ever be Friday, January 3rd, 2020. So I want to make sure we make the absolute most of this absolutely incredible day. Fair enough? Dude, have you guys felt the energy of 2020? Have you felt the energy that people have been pushing it out? Has your feeds been filled with dreams and aspirations and all of the things that people are going to do in 2020? Have you felt it? I feel like it's more than ever, right? Like people are starting to evolve. They're starting to see the opportunities. They're starting to see that we live in such an incredible time that the sky is no longer the limit. I think it's just awesome. And we've been riding that energy here at hashtag Rise and Grind Studios. And we've been riding that energy as we've been going out into the world as Rise and Grind members. And so I stinking love the beginning of the year. I hope that you're having a great beginning of the year. And I do want to pop up today's quote in the Rise and Grind planner that was contributed by our friend Christy Kennedy Mendoza. Did you see Christy posted a video of her dancing around at night last night? She got her second 45-minute workout in late at night after a 15-hour workday. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. So Christy Mendoza, her quote in the planner today says, "Rise up, take courage, and do it." Isn't that strong? Rise up, take courage, and do it. Listen, I've been calling all of you guys to join with me to rise up, take courage, and do the Morning 5, right? The Morning 5 challenge where I need you to do 5 simple steps first thing in the morning. And I promise you, this will guide you to an extraordinary life. 5 simple steps. Number 1, don't hit the snooze button. Number 2, don't touch your phone first thing in the morning. Number 3, write down your gratitude and your goals. Number 4, take care of yourself physically, like getting your butt kicked on the Peloton like I did yesterday. And number 5, probably the most important step of all, sending out an encouraging message. Well, I've challenged people all around the United States, and I've been seeing your posts. People have been posting that they're part of the challenge, that they're going to do it. And what I'm challenging you to do is to do it for 67 days straight. 67 days straight, no breaks, no days off. The weekend's coming around. That doesn't mean you get to do it back again on Monday. 67 days is how long it takes to really solidify biologically to where something becomes easier to do than to not do. So I'm challenging you to spend 67 days doing the morning 5. If you need more details about the morning 5 or why we do those 5 steps, you can go to themorning5.com. You can download my free, completely 100% free ebook. You can download that. It's got more details on it. But here's the thing. If you complete the challenge, if you make a post every single day for the next 67 days, a picture of you sending out a message, a picture of you working out, a picture of you doing your gratitude and goals. If you make a post every day, 1 of 67, 2 of 67, 10 of 67, 55 of 67, if you make those posts on day 67, I will reward you with a free Rise and Grind gear bag filled with Rise and Grind gear. Why do I do that? Well, I do that because I know if you do that for 67 days, it will help bring out the absolute best version of you that you can possibly be. And when that happens, it makes a massive impact on this planet. And that's what I want for you. That's what I want for me. That's what this is all about, extracting the greatness within. So I hope that you'll join us on that challenge. Dude, talk about extracting greatness. You want to talk about an amazing human being that does incredible things and has, for what I can see, I'm going to learn more about him this morning, but from what I can see, he's been doing incredible things for quite a long time in his life. I'm excited to bring him in here. Before we do, though, I know how you morning folks are, right? We got to dance a little bit. We got to get the body moving a little bit, right? We got the hashtag Rise and Grind. I love this song by Tony with the Keys. For those of you that know, and those of you that don't know, this is the part of the show where I need you to hit that share button. That's right. I need you to hit that share button because I believe if we can change the way people start their day, it'll make a massive impact on this planet. I truly believe that. And sometimes all it takes to change the way somebody starts their day is for you to hit that share button. Also, the best way that we can honor a guest that gets up early and joins us at 5:30 a.m. on hashtag Rise and Grind is to share them out with the rest of the planet. This is also normally the part of the show where I would say good morning to you and you'll say good morning to me. I don't have my phone though, so I don't know who's watching, but I'm going to take some guesses. My guess is I could say good morning to Tony, Tito, Washington. I'm also going to guess that I could say good morning to Whitney Wells. And I'm guessing I can say good morning to Carrie Lynn Carter. I'm guessing that Janelle Griego is probably up on here. And I'm going to also guess that we might have my dear friend, Josh. I'd say Liza Myers-Borges is up in here. My guess is Scott Simons is showing up. What's up, Vicky Everett, Pam Biddle, Susan Rose, and Gail B. Craft? I'm taking a shot here, but my guess is all of you are here on hashtag Rise and Grind. And we probably got Emily Dowler. She's probably here to take some notes, and maybe my man Mike Brockway is here to take some notes as well. My guess is Sean Jones from Carter Myers Automotive is up in here this morning. I'm just guessing, but something tells me I'm right. Something tells me I'm right. All right, this is crazy. Mike Cavanaugh is probably looking at me right now in the green room going, this dude is nuts. Here, let me tell you a little bit about Mike Cavanaugh. So this guy started off working with his father in a dealership in Detroit. Now, if you know anything about Detroit, Detroit is like Motor City, right? Like that's where it all began. That's car country. So he started off working in a dealership there. From there, he left to do 2 tours in Iraq as a Marine, fighting for our country, which I truly appreciate. I know what the sacrifices are behind that. I know what that means. So 2 tours as a Marine. Then he came back. He started selling cars in Detroit. He went from sales to a COO, Chief Operating Officer of a 28 dealership group. And then he left and is now the vice president of Max Digital and is helping dealers nationwide. Meanwhile, raising 2 babies, a boy and a girl, a 7-year-old boy, I believe you said. Is that what you said, Mike? Yeah, 7-year-old girl. Introducing my friend, Mr. Mike Cavanaugh. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, Glenn. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What do you think of that first 10 minutes of Rise and Grind?
I love it. Got me fired up, ready for the day.
Right on. So you've got your 7-year-old boy, you've got your just coming out of the terrible twos little girl. She's 3 years old, right? So you're rocking the parent thing. You've done well with your career. You're running this Mac Digital thing. You're doing all of these things. Mike, I have a feeling, and I'm just guessing today. Today's a day of guessing for me. I'm just guessing based on what I've read, based on what I've studied. Most successful people have a pretty strong morning routine. I'm guessing you probably have a fairly disciplined routine. What do your mornings look like when you hop up first thing in the day?
So that's a great question, Glenn. I do have a pretty disciplined morning routine. I wake up every day, and first thing that I do is work out. So usually that involves basketball when I'm home. I travel every week, usually too. So I'm gone for 2-3 days a week on an airplane to some city across America, meeting with some of our large dealer customers and speaking at conferences. I've seen you at some conferences before. So when I do that, I'm usually in a hotel gym,
Right.
but I'm up usually about 4:45 Eastern time. So I have to sleep in a little bit when I'm on the West Coast, and it's 2:45 in the morning. That's a little too early to get up, or 1:45 in the morning. So I usually have to sleep in a little there, but I get up and I work out. And then I've got a regiment that I do every day, kind of similar to what you said with the gratitude, but mine, I read the Bible every morning, and that sets me right, gets me centered on the day, helps me start my day with gratitude and really focus on what's most important.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Mixing in that Bible. I try, and I'm grabbing my pen because I know I'm gonna have to take some notes with you today. So I spend time in prayer, right in the morning, right while I'm doing my gratitude and goals. I spend time in prayer, but I still haven't yet got that Bible time in, and I think I need to do that in 2020, man. Like, what goes in is what comes out, right? And so I
This
need
is
to
true.
spend a little bit more time in the Word myself. I know a lot of people right now, this time of year, they're setting their goals to read their Bible in a year and so on and so forth. My wife and I tried that last year, and I did okay. So how do you help me with that? So you wake up, you work out right away, and then do you use maybe an Audible app, or do you have the book? You just sit quietly, read, take notes, highlight. What's the best way to do that?
So when before cell phones and technology got better, I used to actually carry a big old thick Bible with me on the road when I would go on the road.
Right?
And now, I use the YouVersion app right on my phone. So that's super helpful. And especially you're on an early flight at, 6:45 in the morning, you're on an airplane. And that's a great time that I found for me, uninterrupted time. Somebody can't call you to, open up that app and dive right in. So really, there's no excuse now. It's with you. You can't forget a book at home. You've got that phone on you all day long.
Yeah, man, we definitely all have our phones on us. That's for sure. Man, Mike, tell us a little bit about growing up in Detroit, man. What's that? What's that like growing up in Detroit, and even more specifically, growing up in Detroit in the car culture that already exists in that city? What was that like for you?
I loved it. So I think now we've got a bit of a renaissance going on in Detroit. It's just it's awesome now. But growing up in Detroit, it was a different environment back then. This is 30 plus years ago. It was always a blue collar type town, and I grew up working with my dad in a close suburb of Detroit, Roseville. Selling cars with my dad over there, and I was 8 years old when I first started going to work with my dad on weekends or
Wow.
after school. So I was the kid that painting curbs, pulling weeds, cleaning up the tires behind the dealership, filling out buyer's guides and key tags and all that. But my dad really instilled some extreme work ethic in me. Probably violated like 20 child labor laws at the time.
Right.
But I appreciate it quite a bit now. So it was awesome, but it was this is a hard working blue collar town, and I think I appreciate that more now than ever, when I realize just kind of how everybody around you having that kind of mentality of just grit and grind, and
Yeah, man.
you have to work hard to get what you have. We went through some really challenging economic times here for decades, and after I got out of the Marine Corps, even came back here and just saw a lot of people struggle, a lot of people close in my family struggle, not have a job for a while, and you really see the grit and determination and kind of that, that human spirit, the strength and the will of people here. So yeah, I think growing up in Detroit and moving back here after I've lived all over the country, there's no place I'd rather be.
That's incredible, man. And I love that you referenced that as far as, yes, we might have broke some child labor laws in the process, but he instilled this work ethic in you, this strong work ethic that's carried with you, obviously had a lot to do with your success, nowadays. And you had mentioned before we even popped on, you mentioned that your 7-year-old, like, he's got work ethic too now, right? Like he's going to the gym with you. As soon as we hop off of the show here, your 3-year-old was waking you up to make sure you were on time for the show. And so I just love how that type of, some people might think, well, a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old's too young to be working in a dealership, too young to be doing this, so on and so forth. And I think it's completely the opposite. If we can instill those things really, really early, you can fast forward and see, obviously it's made you part of the man that you are today. You mentioned that you left Detroit, went on a couple tours, lived all over the country, kind of came back to Detroit. First of all, I want to say thank you, sir, for your service. I truly appreciate it. I come from a military family. Pretty much everyone in my family was military. I won't tell you that they were in the Army, but they were in the Army. We were proud Army fans, but everyone was in but me. Like, I was the only one. My sister was in the military, my dad, my grandfather, my uncles, my aunts, everybody. I was the only one. And honestly, looking back, I just wasn't brave enough. Like, I didn't have the courage to step into that. It wasn't for me. And so I know it takes a lot of courage and a lot of sacrifice, which I truly appreciate. Do you want to share a little bit about, like, what was one of the biggest lessons you learned with your time in the military as a Marine that you could share with us this morning?
Well, I've got so many lessons. That's a great question too. And it's hard to find one, but,
give us 3, give us 5.
I think the first lesson I learned was, don't believe everything you hear, and don't think that everything's going to go as planned. So I joined the Marine Corps actually when I was about 16 years old. Wow. So I was one of the youngest kids in my high school class, and just by how my birthday shook out. And at the time, my mom wanted me to go to college. I really didn't want to go to college at the time. I had a lot of friends that were getting into trouble, some of them going to jail, some bad things going on. And I knew I needed to, kind of subconsciously almost, I knew I needed to get out of that environment. And I talked to a Marine Corps recruiter. As you can see kind of on the wall behind me, I've got a lot of veterans in my family, but none of them were Marines. I had, Army, my grandfather was in the Army, World War II, prisoner of war in Nazi Germany for over a year. Came back, liberated by the British. I had an uncle in the Air Force, uncle in the Navy in Vietnam, and but nobody in the Marines. So I didn't even know what it was. So this guy came and met me in this awesome uniform, and
right.
Sold me on the idea. He said, how would you like to get free college, live in California, and get paid to work out and shoot guns all day? And I'm like, who would not want to do that?
Right. Yeah, that sounds
16 years old. So he sold me on that idea, and he actually got my mom to sign a piece of paperwork that I think was like a power of attorney at the time. He said allowed me to take a physical.
Right.
Well, then he picked me up from school one day and brought me to the recruiting office and said, "Hey, you ready to be a Marine?" And there's some extra curricular activities to the story that helped me loosen up a little bit and have fun before I signed the paperwork. But I ended up going in the Marine Corps.
Right.
Fast forward a little bit. And shortly after I was in boot camp, 9/11 happened, and I didn't end up, going out to live in California and shoot guns and work out and get paid for it. I actually ended up, going to a combat unit and going to Iraq, being one of the first people in Iraq. So, I mean, it was, it was interesting turn of events, but I think that's probably one of the early lessons I learned. And then, The other thing I learned was really to appreciate your family and the time that you get with them. Not many people get to understand what it's like, I think, to involuntarily not be able to see or talk to your family for, a year at a time. So this is going back, I feel really old saying this, but I mean, this is like, almost 15, 20 years ago that I was deployed. So we didn't have, super great technology and, cell phones were not super prevalent, internet, all those things. Like I got to communicate with my family one time on like a piece of cardboard that we made into a postcard, and we didn't have to pay postage over there when you were deployed. So that was the only way that I got to communicate with my family. But like, you really, really appreciate, that mom that nagged you in high school, or that dad that was really hard on you your whole life, all of those people that maybe you don't appreciate at that young age, that 18, 19, you really appreciate them, and, the love and compassion that they have for you, because you're in a wartime environment. You're around nothing but guys who just are like wild animals when you're in that environment all the time.
Sure.
And so you really appreciate that. I think those are probably some of the lessons that I learned, aside from the typical, discipline and structure and, doing what you have to do, not what you want to do. You don't realize you're learning all those lessons at the time when you're a teenager, because you think you know everything already.
Of course.
But as I reflect back, and the older I get, it seems like I remember more. But there's so many things that I took away from that experience that as hard as it was on me at that time, and you bring some baggage with you when you come back too, I wouldn't trade the experience for the world.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So don't believe everything you hear. Don't believe everything's going to go as planned, and appreciate your family. Awesome lessons that we can all apply. And you would think the first things, like you said, kind of just the discipline, the structure, the ability to kind of push through, get the work done. But that's awesome. Why would you say don't believe everything you hear? I guess you said because he told you it was going to be all sunshine and rainbows, right? But then turns out you're over there fighting 9/11. Yeah, that's incredible. Now let's shift from there. You went from there, you kind of came back, went to back into the car business. Were you able to adapt from like salesperson up to COO, big dealership group, right? 28 stores, is that right?
Yeah, so I had a long journey, between selling cars and being a COO, but I think I didn't appreciate the discipline that I'd gotten from the Marines until I got back and applied it, and kind of got to stack myself up against everybody else, and kind of how they approached work. But when I started selling cars when I got back from the Marines, I'd met my wife, my future wife at the time, and she was from New York. And so I knew that I had to, really step up my game if I wanted to one day, marry this girl who I'd fallen in love with, right? And selling used cars in Detroit wasn't, the top of the list of things that impressed
right?
Everybody, right? So even though my dad sold cars, used cars, I never thought there was a stigma to it until I got older, and I heard all these bad things. I'm like, man, this is a great career. You can make great money. My dad's a great guy. I didn't even know this, but I found out later there was a bit of a stigma to this career. So I worked my butt off while I was selling cars, working full time at a dealership. I was going to school at Northwood University. I was taking night classes, weekend classes. I would take my vacation time and take week-long classes, like 8-10 hours a day, 7 days a week, to try to get my degree, so that I could move up, in my career, and then possibly move to New York one day. But I was a better salesman than I thought, and I was actually able to, get my wife to move from New York to Detroit during like the worst time ever to live here. So that's my biggest sales.
That's a big sale.
Yeah, but I think just working hard and being a trustworthy person, and I had a process. This is, again, I feel really old saying this, but before CRMs were really prevalent, I had a piece of paper that I filled out that was kind of a script almost of how I would talk to people on the phone.
Sure.
Create my manila folder, and I had that little plastic or rubber, rolling file cabinet. and I would organize my people, and I had an Outlook calendar that I would, put all my notes in, and I would, move it along when I would take my notes and move along to follow up. But I had this really regimented process. And then I went from selling like 15 cars to 20 cars to 30 cars to 40 cars a month pretty consistently.
Sure.
And didn't think anything of it. And there's guys that sell, way more than that, now and did previously, but that's a pretty good number in an organization where
no doubt
has it figured out. So I got recognized by that. And then I got to, open up dealerships and close down dealerships as part of the group that I worked at the time. I got to get experience with, they actually had a related finance company working on that side of the business. And then I spent some time at an organization called Credit Acceptance.
Yep.
One of the largest subprime auto finance companies in the world.
Yep.
Learned a ton from that organization, one of the most well-run organizations probably in the country. Stock performs incredibly well. Spent some time there, learned a lot about that side of the business, and then went back to the car business on the retail side to take over as the COO of a dealer group over there. And that was definitely a big challenge. I was still a relatively young guy, and this was a big group, a fast-growing group. We went from 7 stores to over 20 stores in under 2 years.
Wow.
So it was nuts.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. A lot of adversity, a lot of different positions, a lot of different roles, a lot of things that you had to pick up. You had a lot of success. You climbed the ladder, you get to the top, and then once you get to the top, you just jump off and try something new, right? You're like, okay, now that I'm here, I'm gonna go here. How'd you make that leap? Like, why aren't you still with the group? Why aren't you still in that position? What made you want to do what you're doing now?
So that's an awesome question. So I will tell you this, and this is where I learned some of my most powerful lessons that kind of brought me where I'm at today, which is one of the happiest spots that I've been in my life, and probably the most fulfilled spots that I've been in my life is where I'm at today. But I've always had a really strong work ethic. I've always been, obsessive about doing things. Throughout that time, I also got my MBA while I worked at Credit Acceptance. Wow. Started 2 businesses. With a buddy of mine from the Marine Corps that we grew and sold for, 7 figures, great. So a lot of success, but I found when I had time in my life where I felt like I had things figured out or they were rolling pretty well, I would find something else to fill that gap. I never really liked to have space in my life or time to really think in my life. Because I was just really geared around, trying to make it to a destination. Mm-hmm. And, looking back now, there was a lot of things from the Marines in my past that I didn't want to think about on a regular basis. So I kept myself busy to do that.
Sure.
And, why I'm not still with the group and why I'm not still doing that has a lot to do with being obsessive about work in an unhealthy way. And I almost lost my family, right? I've got a wife, and I've got 2 kids, wonderful family, but I worked to the point of exhaustion. I've worked 7 days a week, endlessly, and it's okay because I work a ton now and I travel more now than I've ever traveled, but I don't do it in a selfish way. And I realize, what comes first, that God, family, then my work. I had that pyramid, so to speak, upside down previously, and it was work above all else, and everything just fell apart on me. It became a bit of an overwhelming situation, and I was given a very easy decision to make when my wife said, "Hey, you need to figure out something else to do,
right? Or
we're going to go to New York."
Wow.
And then we're going to go back there. So I said, "Well, that's a really easy decision for me," and I ended up being blessed and finding the opportunity over here at Max Digital. This was we used Max at the dealer group that I was at, and we were they were probably one of the best vendors that we worked with. They were really easy to work with. They listened to us. They seemed to care about our success a lot. So when I was transitioning out of my last role and kind of letting everybody know what was going on where I was at, a colleague of mine had said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming to talk to us?" And I came over here and got to meet the team over here. And we've got a great team. CEO is a Navy SEAL, veteran for I think 24 years as a Navy SEAL. Just an awesome guy. So the culture clicked, everything clicked. And one of the things that I realized throughout my career is that I've been happiest when I work with people that I like, that I get along with, that have similar values, that care about each other.
Yeah.
And I was able to see that really clearly right away when I met with the folks over here. So it was just, kind of serendipitous, or just, I could tell that was kind of God's plan for me at the time, and I followed it.
Man, I love that throughout the themes. Like if we walk through, it's you with your dad, family, right? Then you go overseas, and the thing that you appreciate most is the little bit of time that you got to spend with your family, and now you appreciate that more, right? Boom, family. Then the career, we're having this career success, and we're doing well, and we have this great work ethic, and we're very organized, and we're systematic, and we're top performers. And then it takes our wives, right? Which I've been through the same type of stuff as you. And then it takes our wife and our kid to get us to realize, like, wait a minute, everything that you're doing is selfish, it's unfulfilling, it's not going to give you the joy and the peace that we are supposed to have, it's not God's plan, it's not God's will, and you better do something about it and take care of your family. Boom, family. Then when you move over to Max Digital, the thing that you noticed is that you felt like they were aligned, similar values, but basically it felt like family, right? That's I wish more people would understand that true success is not measured in dollars and cents.
That's the truth. I think I always looked at that because I grew up as a blue collar kid. My dad, when I was a real young kid, my dad would buy and buy cars, fix them up, and sell them in our front yard. My mom, took a bus to work every day. So I grew up very, humble beginnings. And I think I always looked at, this monetary success of if I made it to make this much money, or lived in a house that was this certain size, or had this title, this would be my definition of success. And when it's kind of funny at the beginning of the year, as I can remember as a young man, like writing, like at the end of this year, I want to be, this title, or, I want to be a director. I want to be a GM. I want to have these things, and I want to make this much money. And I thought that would be, that would define my success. Then I would be happy. There was this whole, if this, then I'll be happy. And what I found over time was like, no, you have to be happy first. And then all this other stuff comes to you, but you have to be grateful. To your point, as I love that you talked about that, about one of your top 5 is like, you got to be grateful. And I think once you realize that, like, you already have everything you need to be happy, more happiness just kind of comes to you as long as you stick with, with the plan, and you're doing not what you want to do selfishly, but you look up to say, like, what am I supposed to be doing today? What's the right thing? What's going to, honor God? What's going to honor my family? And I think success comes after that.
I think that's beautiful, man. Instead of like, if this, then it's find the happiness and the stuff will come. It will come, man. I am a living testament to that as well. I spent decades chasing if this, then, right? And it wasn't until I settled in with my family and said, okay, I've got everything I need. And now the abundance just continues to roll in. The opportunities, man. Life is crazy that way. Mike, dude, this show goes by super fast. Super fast. It's supposed to be 20 minutes. We're already over. We're already over our time. But because it is the mornings, we have to respect people's morning routines. I just feel like that's just what we're supposed to do. So what I want to do right now is I want to put you on top of a mountain, man. I'm going to put you on top of a mountain, and all of civilization is looking at you. Everybody, they're all looking up at you. And they're cheering, man. They're like, Cavanaugh, 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 Cavanaugh. And you're like, yeah. And you're walking up to the mic, man. Everybody's cheering. And they're like, yeah, Mike, what do you got for us? We're going to hand you the mic. You got 2 minutes. 2 minutes to drop some powerful words of wisdom on them. Something that's going to impact their lives today, this week, this month. Something that they can take away and apply to reach high levels of success, true success, not just financial success. What are you going to tell them, my man?
All right. So the first thing I would tell them is be patient. Nothing happens as quickly as you'd like it to. And embrace the suck a little bit, is that things don't always go as planned, and things aren't always going to be fun and easy. but you have to grind it out and you have to embrace it and learn how to have fun, even when things suck, even when things aren't fun. I think that would be the first thing. The next thing would be, be kind to people. I don't think it's ever serves you well to be cutthroat, to step on anybody's throat to get where you're trying to go, to, react harshly to anybody. And the last thing I would say is have grace. It's easy to judge other people until you've been in their shoes. But I think once you've gone through some struggles in your own life, having grace for people, giving them a second chance and an opportunity can really make a big difference in the world and can create some lasting impact that you wouldn't believe if you just have grace with people.
That is beautiful, my man. Be patient, be kind, have grace. What a powerful message in just 2 minutes for people to be able to take away. I think if everyone were to apply those three things, the world would absolutely 100% be a better place. Speaking of the world being a better place, and for those of you that need to get out of here, I completely understand. You've got your morning routines, you've got to roll, you got to get ready for work, you got to get all of those things in first thing in the morning. I get it. So for those of you that got to go, I love you. If you need more videos like this, you can go to glennlundy.com. I hope you'll join us on the Morning 5 Challenge, all of that good stuff for real. I hope you have an incredible day and an incredible weekend. We'll be back here again Monday morning at 5:30 a.m. But for those of you that can stay just a few more minutes, I do want to talk to you, Mike, because you work in the world of future, like technology, right? You're working in this world of technology in the future, and you're up to date on what's going on industry wise and so on and so forth. And so I was just wondering, we've been talking about the future like all week, right? We moved into 2020 and everybody's talking about what they're going to do and how they're going to get there and all of those things. So I kind of want to get your perspective on, like, what is the future of business? Like, what does it look like? Which way is it moving? What do we need to be learning now to make sure we don't get left in the dust as all of this stuff continues to transition and move as fast as it is?
I think you can't be stuck in the status quo, right? I think the customers demand a lot more than what we've ever seen them demand in the past. We spend a ton of time at Max Digital doing consumer research. I mean, we interview thousands of customers a year, follow them through their online shopping journey to see, what do they like, what do they not like, what causes them to abandon an experience online, what causes them to actually come into a store. And I think what we're learning over time is that you really need to get better at answering your customers' questions, whether that's online, whether that's in the store. But kind of the status quo process of, forcing customers to fill out leads and forcing customers to wait hours and hours in a store. My brother-in-law just bought a car yesterday. He was at the dealership all day and he has excellent credit, right? Right. He was at the dealership all day and already knew what kind of car he wanted to buy. That should never happen. And I can guarantee he's never going to go back to that dealership to buy a car again.
Sure.
So I think we have to realize, there's a lot of technology that's out there, but we just need to be able to answer the customer's questions. We need to be able to, help create some efficiencies for them because that's what they're used to with the rest of the world and how they buy. And then the future that I'm paying attention to personally a lot has to do with, all of these things that have to do with, Amazon, Alexa, and all these voice type things. So building your brand is important, properly merchandising your inventory online and indexing your web pages so that, these voice searches, I think that's going to become super, super relevant in any industry, in any business, especially the car business over the coming years, because my 7-year-old son, he's got an Alexa, Amazon Echo Dot every day. And he wakes up and he says, hey, Alexa, what time is it? Alexa, what's the weather like today? This is going to be how people grow up and they get accustomed to things. And if we don't start thinking forward about that, about, is our brand synonymous with, find me a Ford Expedition, or what's the price of a Ford Expedition today when people are searching for cars? I think you're going to get left behind by the people that are forward thinking like that.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly real, incredibly valid, and on. I've thought about the voice stuff a little bit recently, but I hadn't thought about it from the aspect that you just talked about. Like my kids, every single one of them, I have a Facebook portal in my other office right next door. And I do a lot of voice training or not voice, but video training, and so on and so forth. And throughout the day, I'll hear that thing because it's attached to my Alexa. And the kids are like, Joel's like, "Hey, Willow, come downstairs for lunch," right? Like they're all talking through the Alexa device. And right before they go to bed, my 2-year-old says, "Alexa, play Baby Shark," right? And he listens to Baby Shark before he goes to bed. My son listens to, or he asks Alexa, "Hey Alexa, will you tell us a bedtime story?" And they get bedtime stories and they listen to their music and so on and so forth. And they're all talking through this voice thing. And I hadn't thought about making sure that you're on the other side of that, right? Making sure that when somebody makes that command, that you're the one that pops up and getting an understanding of what that looks like. I guess I'm going to have to start digging in, Mike. We got to figure out how when somebody says, "Alexa, watch Rise and Grind," that hashtag Rise and Grind like pops up, right? Those are the types of things.
Right.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, the world's moving so fast. It's just so
Faster than we realize. I mean, it's crazy. I think right now you think about how important it is to show up on page 1 of Google in search results for any business, right? What about when you say, "Find me a Ford Expedition," or "What's the payment on a Ford Expedition?" And if you're not properly indexed, if you don't have the right data, if you haven't built a brand that helps you show up as the top result, it's not only about the first page, but it's going to serve up that one dealership and that one payment, that shows up top in that area geographically for that consumer. If you're not excellent at this, it could be incredibly detrimental to your business. And while it seems like it's far away, I can remember like the other day when it was optional to have a website.
Yeah.
It was optional.
Sure.
Right? It was, you dominated your market if you were the inside front cover, inside back cover, and the middle glossy page of Auto Trader, and you ran a bunch of commercials on TV. Now there's no magazine. People don't watch TV. I've got, nieces and nephews that are in their, 20s and teens that they don't even watch network TV for any reason. They're on their phone.
Right.
They're on YouTube, right? So it's just, the world's changing faster than we can even comprehend, I think, for most people that aren't just all day living in that tech industry.
Sure.
And we just have to really be focusing on, 5 years from now already, or we're going to get left behind.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's real. It reminds me of, I refer to this with my dealers when I'm working with my dealers. Like, it reminds me of the early 20s when, Ford started manufacturing via assembly line cars, and everyone was like, "What do we need cars for, man? We've got like our horses, and our horses can go into the woods. A car can't go into the woods, and no one will ever buy that thing," right? And then it wasn't, just a few years later where every horse was put out of business and people were driving around cars. And I feel like that's where we're at right now. Like, I hadn't even thought about what you just said. Not only is it I do understand that right now we can't just sit and do what we've always been doing. That no longer works, right? Like, that's worked for the last 70, 80 years in the car business. You could do the same thing year over year over year over year, but no longer. You've got to be growing. You got to be volume. You got to be ahead. Totally get that. But I wasn't even thinking about the fact that if you're not there, someone else is going to be. So not only is your dealership or your business not going to be able to scale, but it's actually destined to fall, because whoever's showing up, whoever is on top of it, is going to eat your lunch, is going to eat your lunch. And speed. You're so right, man. Speed is key. I apologize that your brother had to spend a whole day in my industry. I love the auto industry. And he had to spend the whole day. He should have called me. I'd have hooked him up with some dealers, bro, that know how to move and shake, right? But that's not... It just doesn't make any sense, man. Thanks for that. That gives me some things I need to work on, building my brand and building my business, which I truly appreciate going forward. And I'll probably, pick your brain even a little bit more now that we're getting to know each other more and more and more. I know I'll see you in February out there in NADA. But look, Mike, man, dude, you're obviously an incredible human being, uniquely made by the God of the universe. The God who made everything made you to be the absolute best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And you're doing it, bro. You're living it large, and it's making an impact. It's obviously making an impact on your friends, your family members, and your coworkers. And this morning, you made an impact on me and on us. And I, for one, absolutely love you for it, bro. I do. Thank you so much for being on with me today.
Thanks, Glenn. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, my man. Hang out here in the green room just a second. I'm going to sign off over here with the rest of the crew. Hey, I hope you enjoyed, my man, Mike Cavanaugh. Thanks for sticking around. Holy smoke. Even with us going late, there's still 88 people live on hashtag Rise and Grind, even with us going late. I truly appreciate that. If you found any value in what Mike had to share there, make sure you hit that share button, tag a friend, talk to somebody, do whatever you got to do. Spread the word. You can follow Mike. Mike does not do Facebook. He is lasered in on LinkedIn. So feel free to follow Mike Cavanaugh over there on LinkedIn. He drops all kinds of valuable nuggets, wisdom, all kinds of great stuff over there. But again, hey, make sure you're joining me in the morning 5. Make sure you're attacking your day as best as humanly possible so you can go out there and make an impact on the planet. Enjoy your weekend. No breaks, 67 straight days. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you catch us on After the Grind. This is the new podcast that we have out. You can get it on Apple, iTunes, or anywhere podcasts are found. We will record another episode of After the Grind today at 12 o'clock Eastern time. We tend to, as we record the podcast, we like to go live on Facebook so you can see behind the scenes. So you can join me later today at noon on After the Grind, or just go on to iTunes now, download, subscribe, and if you would, please leave us a review. I would greatly appreciate it. Most importantly, though, go out there, have an incredible day today. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you Monday morning at 5:30 a.m. as we do this all over again on hashtag Rise and Grind.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. Hashtag Rise and Grind.